for anyone going through trauma, mental health issues, depression, or any of those negative stuff. And it's very difficult to bounce back. Even though you have that momentum of coming down, it's difficult to muster up courage, to bounce back. So do you have any words or any message, any tips for these kind of people who want to shift from pain to power and use that momentum of going down to eventually bounce back up and lead other events?
There's two techniques. One is called appreciate, learn, forgive, and one is called the love hierarchy. So first is accept that the valleys are necessary to have the hills. Like, we don't know what tall is until we know what short is. We have to accept the dual nature of reality. We know what a valley is because we know what a hill is. We know what a man is because we know what a woman is. All of these exist together and can't exist without the other.
So how was that experience for you? Like, how did their presence, activate your growth? You have briefly spoken about Tate in the solitary confinement, but don't know that aspect as a whole.
Their masculinity helped me see my femininity. And this is the value of relationships is our opposites our best mirror. So one main lesson that Justin showed me is how much I need to admire my man. So we're in this together. If you have a need to be admired, then I must have a need to do the admiring.
You're balancing your spiritual gifts, right? Like shamanic insight with scientific structure in your life, in your coaching, even parts of your book. How is this really working out together? I'm curious.
Wholeness is not created by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by the integration of the contraries. Science, left brain, logic, spirituality, emotion, creativity. And now is a time that we understand that the science and the spirituality are saying the same exact thing. So for some people say, well, I got the spirituality, so I don't care about the science. And some people say, I got the science, so I don't care about the spirituality. Okay, hang on. The physicists have proven that we all have energy bodies and we all communicate through our heart space. So shamans have always been saying that we all have souls and we communicate through our heart. And so our heart, the nervous system around our heart, is way more complex and sends way more signals from the heart to the brain than the other way around.
Hello everyone, I'm Pratyush and welcome back to a fresh episode of The Underdog Protagonist. Today's guest is Kerry Blaser, a mother, shaman, and author who turned emotional trauma into personal wisdom. From suicide attempt to spiritual awakening, she shares how pain, physics, and unexpected people shaped her healing. This one's deep, and it might just shift something in you. So without any further ado, let's welcome our guest, Kerry Blaser, to the podcast. Hi, Kerry. Welcome to the Underdog Protagonist podcast. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. It's glad to, do this podcast session with you because the topic and the things that you bring on the table is worth said out loud. A lot of people hesitate. A lot of people don't really open up about it. And it's very brave for you to please speak about all these things. But I believe the listeners don't have context yet to what I'm talking about. So just for them to have some bit more context, please tell a bit about you. What are you best known for and why?
I'm a mother, first and foremost. I have 3 grown children, a boy and 2 girls. I'm a shaman and a recently published author of My Inner Heroine, Exploring the Feminine Pain. I also have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. I met my children's father while traveling in Tibet, and he's from Israel. So I've lived in Asia. I've lived in Israel. When I was young, I lived in Europe. My stepfather, who has since passed, was the personal doctor to the sister of the Shah of Iran, which is, a timely connection right now. So I would say, I got connections in the Middle East and Asia and America. So that's me. And my story in my book is I share how I went from my darkest moment to my most illuminating experience and all the trials, the tribulations, the epiphanies, the breakthrough, everything. It's raw, it's unfiltered. I just share what it took for me to heal from my childhood trauma.
Let's talk about the past. So let's go back in time and let's throw some light on what was the events happening that shaped you today right now.
Yeah, so I was, my parents had a lot of trauma in their homes, and so they had generational trauma that passed down to me. And I was born in 1970. And in 1975, we moved to an affluent town in Southern California, which is like 15 minutes from the Bachelor Mansion. If just to give people like some context, like that kind of level of affluence. And my mom was an alcoholic and my dad a workaholic. And so my mom decided to get first when I was years old, and my brother was 7. But we stayed in the same town, and we eventually. Oh, I was raised in an apartment, and even though my dad was, quite affluent, so yeah, my mom rejected me with the alcoholism. My dad was super busy. So like when I was 11 years old, he met my stepmom and he started sleeping at her house every night that my brother and I were there. So we would just get left alone at home. So like, abandonment wounds, lack of self-belief, and he would lie and say he was there, and even though he wasn't, all the gaslighting. And so it basically, I guess, I can share a piece of art that really kind of shows how I felt about myself. And and I saw it a few weeks ago. And there's a sculpture where they have a man's head, but it's just very, just you can see it's a man, but there's just a lot of detail and the arms and the legs, but the whole center of the body was missing. And I would say that's how much I rejected myself. You could see right through him to the landscape of the ocean behind the sculpture. And that's, what the impact that it had on from my childhood and how I felt about myself. And so I'd say that's that's what I was recovering from, like just rejected like all the parts of me. And so
We always try to escape from all these things because there's a capacity of how much mental load anyone can take, right? But it takes a lot of realization. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes, that courage to really step out of your that environment and build something for your own or try to heal yourself. So, what was that moment, when everything cracked open for you, or at least it felt like you have a ray of light over there?
yeah, so Wednesday was my birthday. I turned 55. 10 years ago, my 45th birthday, my mom passed away. And our souls plan our lives to show us ourselves for self improvement opportunities. And so it's based on our wounds, but we pick certain days and certain synchronicities to communicate meaning. So my mom and I had my birthday together, and then we had her death day together, which are two of the most important days of our lives. So it's, her soul was showing me how important I am to her. And that was the day my intuition told me I needed to heal from my childhood trauma and I had to accept my psychic gifts. So that was the beginning. And so, yeah, have you ever had a moment like that where you knew just things needed to change?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I won't say I lived through trauma, but I have lived through, all these boundaries set by my parents. Coming from a, sophisticated Indian family, they don't let you go out of your way, or they'll give you a lot of freedom to explore your potential. So I'm always bound within these parameters. I did not know what I am unless I took courage and set my parents like I want to know about. I can't say anymore. It's partly because I want to apply for a job. I want to grow my skills and whatever. But it was a time when I have to take uh, summon up all the courage I have to say this to my parents that I need some money from you because I'm not earning yet. But I'll I have this promise to you. I can make this promise to you that for the next 2 months pay me what I badly need to survive. After that, I'm all on my mode. That's my commitment that I'll only take 2 months to stand on my feet. And that's exactly what I did. That brings me immense pleasure. But I'm also a bit regretful that if I had, the means to explore a few years back, then I would have landed somewhere else as I am right now. But it's all in that, mindset and optimistic approach. So I believe all for good and nothing harmful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really happy for you that you're able to stand up, and because that's like my story is a story of how did I find self belief, you know, and so 6 years ago, my youngest daughter blamed me for her eating disorder. And I went home and my brain told me that my children would be better off with a dead mother than a live one. So I took all the medications that I had and I attempted suicide. And the next morning, my oldest daughter found me because we were supposed to go together to visit my youngest daughter. So then after that, when I got out of the hospital on the psych ward, I told my oldest daughter, I said, I'm bringing healing to the whole family. We're not leaving your dad behind. And even in the psych ward, I found self-belief. And so it's like the story is just how I believed in myself and believed in myself. It's like baby steps, but it's kind of like the snowball effect where you take one step of self-belief, like you moving out. I'm going to do it in 2 months. And then, okay, yeah, I did it in 2 months. Okay, what's next? And this is how we've learned to surf the waves of life. And so I take a very much a multidisciplinary approach to healing, and which helps me understand, like, I have very much an engineering left brain and a highly intuitive right brain, like all the men in my family, all engineers, like, Swiss German, like I said, like they got to build stuff and it's got to be perfect. So it's like two requirements. I have to do it myself. That's thing one for the men. And then two, it has to be perfect. Okay. But, you know, but I'm like that. So, so anyway, the self-belief. And so it just keeps building and building. And so one physics experiment I found to help me understand myself is, well, first, we all have energy bodies or souls, you know, and, I know Western cultures, like, I don't have, what? Okay. We all know now. We stop arguing about it. We all have souls and we're all communicating through our heart space, and our souls express themselves through emotions which vibrate at different frequencies. Yeah. Say, okay. So like shame is 20 hertz, where love is 2000 hertz, and enlightenment, which is an emotion, is 700 to 1000 hertz. So you have two balls. Here's the experiment. You have two balls, they're identical, on two tracks, so the same distance. One is slightly downhill and one has hills and valleys. So technically, the distance traveled on that track is longer. Which ball reaches the finish line first? The hills and valleys. And I have the video in my book, so you can see, and they do it like 4 different times. Like, okay, let's 2 hills, 3 hills, 4 hills, and the hill, it always wins. Why? Because the momentum and propulsion gained from that downhill sends the ball up to the next mountaintop. Like, if you wanna get to the top of Mount Everest, how much of a valley do you have to go into to unearth that self-belief and that self-confidence and get strong enough, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every single way. You need to go down before you can be catapulted up. This is how reality is built. Reality is built by some laws of physics. Like, we're not over here arguing that the table of elements is right or wrong, right? That's the way it is. Okay. Those are the elements. Same thing with, the laws of physics. Like, 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. 1 plus 1 will never equal 3. So it's like I kind of take that approach, as hard as it is, to my healing, because we're like onions. And so it's like peeling back the layers. So every layer needs to integrate the two ball experiment. And that's a lot of layers. So yeah, yeah. So what do you think about that analogy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I have this, question that is popping in my brain. Is that okay? Let's take a scenario first. A human who is suffering, who is feeling like they are bound somewhere, they can't escape, and they're just digging and they keep on digging to and for an escape. But in reality, what they're actually doing to themselves is they're dig or towards the bottom of the ground. They're actually increasing the level of their pain. As you told, they're going down in the valley. And as they go down, the pain level increases exponentially for them. And they hit rock bottom where there is no hope, no light, and no power, right? It's all pain and it must feel like that for anyone going through trauma, mental health issues, depression, or any of those negative stuff. And it's very difficult to bounce back. Even though you have that momentum of coming down, it's difficult to muster up courage, to bounce back. So, do you have any words or any message, any tips for these kind of people who want to shift from pain to power and use that momentum of going down to eventually bounce back up and lead a healthy life.
Yeah, so there's two techniques or just I realized what I was doing, so then I explained it in as simple as terms as possible. One is called appreciate, learn, forgive, and one is called the love hierarchy. So if you accept, first is accept that the valleys are necessary to have the hills. Like we don't know what tall is until we know what short is. You have to accept the dual nature of reality, right? We know what a valley is because we know what a hill is. We know what a man is because we know what a woman is. Like, all of these exist together and can't exist without the other. So if you're in a valley, one, there's a hill coming. Okay. And me, like I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain. That's a long valley. But after that valley, I experienced enlightenment several times. So the deeper the valley you go into, the higher the vibration it can propel you into. If you only go in a little, you're only going to come out a little. That's not enlightenment. So I had to learn that my mental health challenges were a necessary prerequisite to experiencing enlightenment, which is part of our healthy emotional range. So one is you have to open your body up to healing. Your soul, your body, all of it, because your soul is informing your body, and your soul talks to you through your body, through life events, through so many different means. So and then when you appreciate your challenges in life, because now you know you have an opportunity to grow, to learn something new, to unearth more self-belief, more self-confidence, and that's a heart opener. And that's how you heal. Where if you don't open your heart and you're still like in fight or flight, there's no healing happening here because you're so busy protecting yourself. You have to surrender to an open heart. Okay. And that's learning how to surf the waves in life. Surrender to that pain. And then you'll have the if you don't surrender the pain, you're fighting the pain. How do you have energy to climb to the next mountain? Right? So you have to learn how to, how to move with the energy, move with the laws of physics. So appreciate your challenges, to self-reflect. And self-reflect means ask yourself, why was it necessary? Like for me, why was it necessary for me to attempt suicide? You know, why was it necessary for me to, have a mother who's an alcoholic and a father who's a workaholic? What wounds did I need to heal? Inside of myself? What did I need to see about myself? And so our souls are planning our lives in every moment. So it's not, was it necessary? Because that's not acknowledging that our souls plan our lives, which now physicists have proven. So acknowledging, accepting reality is okay. Why did my soul plan my life? Plan that event in my life? Why was it necessary, for that event to happen? And then what I found is, and then I asked myself, what's the wisdom? Because the wound is the subconscious, is the shadow. Bringing that shadow into the light, making your darkness conscious, is how you download more wisdom into your soul, and then you'll be able to climb higher and higher mountains energetically, and then eventually reach enlightenment. So appreciate, learn, forgive. There's no regret, no remorse because, our souls plan every moment. So nothing's wrong. Hard, painful, yes. Challenging, yes, but not wrong. Like there should be regret or remorse. No. Um, and then the love hierarchy. So what I realize is that when I act from my wounds in the subconscious, I put other people before myself. And that's the codependency, right? The people pleasing, the coddling, the like, oh well, if I give you all this, maybe you'll like me. Because obviously, I'm a bad person if you can't tell. Like, I believed I was the problem in my life up until a few years ago. And that's one way of showing that I believe I'm the problem is like, oh, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for existing. I'm so terrible. Can I just like overgive to you and kill myself and then maybe you'll like me? You know what I mean? So so that when we act from the wounds, we act from inverted wisdom. So we put other people first and ourselves last so we don't get any self-care. But love hierarchy from the wisdom means I love myself first. I fill my own cup of love first. So when I pour onto other people, I pour from health and happiness. Like the guy that goes into Starbucks and screams over a blueberry muffin not being hot enough, that guy had problems before Starbucks ever existed. And so that is him not healthy cup of love to pour into other people. And so engaging, I call self-love is, are you exercising well? Are you eating well? Are you, walking in nature? Are you journaling? Are you doing self-reflection? It doesn't mean I'm always right and you're always wrong. And that's selfish. No. Is it, do I have a secure attachment to myself so I can process my emotional pain and not take it out on everybody else? So there's self-love, and then the partner love, and then child love, family love, and then community love. But most people start with community and end with self-love. And so by the time they get back to self-love, there's no energy left.
Right.
What do you think about those two ways of?
People are carrying a lot of weight. There's a lot of shackles binding them. Once you let go of that weight, try to look within yourself, try to forgive yourself, try to not judge yourself so much for anything that has happened so far. Because yeah, there's some sort of peace in taking accountability, but taking accountability for something that you're not on a reason of a part of, that is purely wrong. And that is what the shackles are. You're taking the accountability which you're not meant to take, and you're adding all those burdens on yourself, adding all the weight, and it's becoming heavier and heavier. And once it gets heavy, it always looks for a way to escape. You said the analogy of a person asking for coffee and getting this muffin that is half cold, half hot. They had something that is so, cramped up in their mind, in their body, that it was screaming to escape. Once they found a way, that short loophole, that escaped rapidly. And that is how the outbursts, we see around us really light up and really take place within any human. And this alignment of, forgetting ourselves, letting go of the past, take a healing journey that is very much from your soul, from the within, and ask the right questions to yourself. And then always, as you said, make hierarchy a priority. Once you do that, I think healing is something that is, it won't be a structure, but it will be a process.
Yeah, no, I really like how you said that. And I think one thing that a challenge that I constantly face in my own family is, when my children get in their wounds, and I did it too, then well, why isn't the other person healed? And because the universe is a mirror, what they're really saying is, why aren't I healed? you know? But of course, they can't really hear that when they're in their wounds, they're not healed. So just, when we're, acting from wisdom, just I think it's important to remind ourselves that every soul has a plan. And so the timeline it takes for my youngest who has an eating disorder to heal is different than the timeline it takes for his older sister to heal or her brother to heal, because they're all individual souls. And all of our souls are holding space for each other to face our wounds, to face our fears and overcome them. And so when I got to that point and I was like, okay, and that's, a lot of gratitude. Like, wow, all these other souls are holding, when I had a lot of anxiety and depression and I was taking my crap out on everyone, no one killed me. So, you know, so I got to be grateful that I'm still here and having an opportunity to process my wounds and share my wisdom. But that's something that I think a lot of people get caught up on is that one, they don't understand what the universe is a mirror really means at every level. And our brains have mirror neurons, so that's how we learn. That's how we learn from others, and that's how we see ourselves is the universe is a mirror. So what I resonate with and what I pick up on in every situation is specific to me. Now, granted, you and I could be in Starbucks at the same time, and you might not even barely notice the guy yelling over the blueberry muffin, where maybe because of my wounds, that really triggers me, and there's something I need to learn from that. So I really see that. And then I could spend, days talking about that, and you never mentioned it again. But it doesn't mean that event didn't happen. It's just how it impacts me is different than how it impacts you. So that's, and the more compassion I have for myself, then the more compassion I have for others. But that's something I really had to learn. And I learned about compassion with Andrew Tate. That was, I never saw that coming in my life. And this is, our souls have a plan to show us our wounds so we can have self-improvement opportunities. And so that kind of that grief picture and our external reality is a mirror of our internal reality. And he went to solitary confinement, right? And I resonated with him in solitary confinement, but that grief, image really it shows why, like, I just rejected myself so completely that I just felt that alone everywhere I went. Personally, I was talking to him in my garage in the dark in a recliner, his soul, but that, I had to do a lot of self-reflection, and then also I was giving him a ton of compassion. I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe I should give myself an equal amount of compassion?" Maybe, But all the different things I learned from self-reflecting on all these relationships and in the book, and we have so many women saying, "Well, I don't want kids, it's too much work." Okay, well, yeah, that's why you're here, to do the work, and I think people want that slightly downhill track, that is how reality is created, and I think it's because of our childhood trauma, and no one taught us that life is hard. If you were born 200 years ago and there was a lot of the infant mortality rate and wars and the maternal mortality rate was so high, it's kinda it was just in your face that life is so hard, right? People now, "Oh, but it's such a bad time to have kids." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, because 200 years ago when half the kids were dying, that was a good time to have kids? Like, what are you talking about?" Like, but it's this we are not teaching people what is reality and how is reality created, and that reality is really hard. And, yeah, I use a lot of Carl Jung quotes in my book. I just love Carl Jung. And one quote that has helped me understand enlightenment and life so much, he says that one does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, like imagining the slightly downhill track, but by making the darkness conscious. The hill, the back tree, and then the hilltop or the two-mile experiment again. Or like the Winston Churchill quote that I found, that says, he said, "It is said that famous men are often the product of an unhappy childhood." I'm like, two-ball experiment. Mm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can resonate with that because a lot of men who hide, I mean, still true to this day that a lot of men try to hide their feelings. I don't know for what reason, but it feels masculine and it has society has somehow taught them that can't be so much expressive. Even though we try to be expressive in our own ways, we don't be fail to be or get to that level where anyone can understand like what you're trying to say because we have been conditioned to hide our true feelings, hide our true facial expressions that we fail to express, we fail to communicate when it comes to, telling about you, your life, your well being, your health, and all those things. And this is interesting for me because in your book, you kind of blend both of this, intersection. There's an intersection of these two things. Is that uh, these famous people who you look up to, whom you have learned from, Andrew Tate, Justin Waller, all those famous people, you have intersected their masculine archetypes and you have mixed with your healing and your feminine touch to it, and you have kind of blended it together to project that or bring that out in the form of your book. So how was that experience for you? Like how did their presence activate your growth? You have briefly spoken about antidote in the solitary confinement, but don't to know that aspect as a whole.
Yeah, so I would say, like, thank you for bringing that up because, their masculinity helped me see my femininity, and this is the value of relationships is our opposites our best mirror. And so if I'm not being successful with men, then I got something, I got something going on in me. So one main lesson that Justin showed me is how much I need to admire my man and how, men have a need to be admired. So women have a corresponding need to do the admiring. I think this is one thing you hear so many, people talking about relationships and talk about, well, what do you deserve? But it's like they're just approaching the whole conversation wrong. It's like, okay, so we're in this together. If you have a need to be admired, then I must have a need to do the admiring, right? If I have a need to be respected and heard, then you must have a need to listen and hold space. right? Like something you brought up is men expressing themselves, right? I think, women express, and not that men can't talk, of course men talk, but women talk, men act. And I'm generalizing, right?
Yeah.
So, and then express compassion is different from how women express compassion. Men express compassion by being chivalrous, by opening the door, by carrying bags. But women in general in the Western society have taken that away from them. And now they're wondering why they don't express themselves like women, which is basically, and sure, men, yes, they need to be able to communicate, of course, but it's the acting where men really communicate how they feel about someone. Because, like, if I go out in public and I'm dressed like, low cut, short, I'm not going to get the respect and the doors open and the chivalry. But if I go out modest, beautiful, and and I put out that I respect men energy, I admire men energy, then I'm going to get the chivalry out of men. So what women forget, and I think men forget, is that femininity fuels masculinity. So if we want men to express themselves in their beautiful masculine ways that they do, which is mostly through acting, then women, the energy starts with the woman. Like the woman submits, the man decides. If you're at a bar, right? Let's say you're at a bar, you're a good looking guy. If you're at a bar and a cute girl is looking at you, and then, when do you know that you have an opening with her to talk to her? When do you know?
I don't know. I mean, when she gives some signs, yeah, eye contacts, maybe calling me here, maybe asking you a question, or maybe offering a drink, just from a waiter, like this is on me, something like that. I think a gesture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But you act, right? And so she might be looking at you and then she looks down, right? If she's looking at you and then she's looking sideways after that, she didn't submit, right? But if she's looking at you and and then she looks down, then you have an opening. Now you have a decision to make. Do you want to send her a drink or ignore her? So, but it starts with the feminine. Like, easy women create lazy men, you know? And look at MGTOW. We have half of men in the West are walking away from dating because of all the women. And then you look at the laws of physics. Okay. So me and all these men that we call players, right? I haven't been on a date in 6 years. Hang on, I need some water. In 6 years, I didn't go on a date with any of these guys. So I'm sexually underexpressed. So the laws of physics, who do I attract in? My opposite, sexually overexpressed, right? So we have to remember this, that attraction is based on the laws of physics. We attract the people into our lives, especially romantically, based on our wounds, and they're equal. Like I used to think, and a lot of women, see this way. Why aren't there any good men? Like all I see are all the bad men. And in my book, the first guy, he had a special relationship with a yoga instructor, and she's a dominatrix. Okay, who kind of jokingly, but would kind of flaunt it at yoga because I only saw him at yoga. So we're flirting before class one day, sitting on our mats, and then she starts stomping dominatrix style around his mat. And he lays down like this, like he protecting himself from the invisible whip. And I'm like, dang, he fucked up. And then I'm like, oh shit. We're attracted to each other. I had to accept that we were equally messed up. I'm like, I can't be that. I'm that messed up. Like, that was really hard for me. Have you ever had a situation like that where you had to accept that you are as messed up as the person that you thought was more messed up than you?
I don't know if I had any situations like that. Maybe because I have been very underexposed on all these things. I mean, I don't do clubbings. I don't go out. I don't socially, get along with a lot of people. I consider myself as an introvert, and as I've said, partly because I have been kept inside a cocoon for my whole life, and it was very difficult for me to kind of open up, accept anything at all. So the dynamics are very different in my case scenario over here. And I think I have a fair share where I have felt like, okay, we are shedding a sense of connection. Maybe there's a hint that I'm not getting, or maybe I should act, but I have always afraid of committing to anything And yeah, I just shy away from all sorts of relationships or anything. I thought maybe there's a deeper reason behind it. Maybe there's deeper psychology. I don't know, but that's how I've been conditioned.
Yeah, so you were more coddled because of your more affluent family and, kept away and so I would say, was that more your mom did that or your dad did that?
I think they have equal roles for that. I mean, my dad is someone who is very strict. He has no patience for anything. He does not like to be wronged, even though he is sometimes raw, want to be accused of anything. And my mom, on the other side, sometimes try to take the side of their children, and or she has to be that gritty in nature, or someone who has some sort of control over you, so that you obey her, you will listen to her. And that's how I think they are somehow started putting these doors or gates in front of them that just started to feel solid and solid as day went by. But even though my father had a very solid door, my mom had some like shown me a way of being transparent or soft. That's why I was able to muster courage, because I told my mom first that, hey, I want to do something of my own. I want to try this out. I've been trying this for a couple of years. It's not working in this household. I'm just in my room all day. I just want to go out and see what I can do. I convinced my mom first, then she helped me go to my father. She was like, I won't say, you say first, I'll back you up, and then we'll see how it goes. My father was hesitant at first, but later, he also submitted. And yeah,
Well, I'm happy for you that you got out because I was more like your mom, and so I would attracted men that are more like your dad. And so your dad, is more in his feminine because he hasn't healed yet. Hence, he's so emotional and doesn't have patience and can't bring the stoicism. And your mom is controlling because she's controlling her emotions, and he doesn't hold space for her to process her emotions, so she represses. So well done, you on one getting out of the house. So the second thing is like, what are you doing to build testosterone? So that you will gain more self-confidence. Like, do you exercise? Do you lift weights? Do you eat a diet that builds testosterone?
yeah, I think so. I try to go to the gym regularly. Like for now, due to the workload, I've stopped going there. I think it's been a few weeks, but I try to exercise regularly. I try to have a good diet, a good balance of protein, carbs, and fibers. And yeah, trying to reduce caffeine as of now. I think that is taking over my body. But yeah, I try to lead a healthy life, cutting down sugar and everything.
Yeah, yeah, just I would Google testosterone producing diet because I think you need to add more greens because you need to keep building your testosterone because that's really going to help you break out of your shell, in the way that's appropriate for you. Whatever is out of your shell, and however that plays out for you, but more confidence with women, getting out of the house more, and developing your career and things like that. So for sure, that that will really help you.
Yeah, it's not like I can't interact with women. It's just that I prefer not to. I try to keep a sense of a boundary on my side, because I'm not so much keen on, building a sexual relationship. I'm not very overly, into those stuff. I try to chase for a meaningful relationship where we contribute for equal parts of a healthy living, where I have a few goals of mine which I want to achieve. I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to be swayed away from all these, things that will chew away and give you this negative dopamine boost, and eventually will take you out of your path where you're at to hit the higher purpose. So yeah, I mean, fair share of balancing the purpose and trying to uh, attain the positions that will happen happening in the background.
Yeah, and it's hard right now because so many women have been taught that sexual promiscuity is, what they're supposed to be doing in their early 20s. And then men are like, "Ugh," so um well, I think, we've turned the tide like that women are really opening up and because like, my daughters were taught that and they both hated it. It's like, and so thinking that women are enjoying this, no, women lie left, right, and center. They do it to to kind of look like they know what they're doing, but they really don't know what they're doing. It's insecurity, and now we have all the scientific data showing that casual sex hurts women, and if men are and men are leading women through the casual, if it's hurting the women, it hurts the men because we're in it together. So this idea that men and women can do something together that hurts one and benefits the other, that just doesn't exist. It's like, I finally with Justin, who has his own steel construction company. He's the youngest member of American Steel Board, like, has so much success and came from, a trailer park in Louisiana, like go Justin, right? And a huge heart he has. Like he's a beautiful man. Is he a perfect man? No, he's not a perfect man, but who's perfect? That's the think that we get ourselves into. But when I felt admiration for Justin, I was like, oh wow, I'm 52 years old and I finally can like figure out what a healthy feminine woman is. But we're not teaching women that. Like my mom, she used to talk to me how she was saving her calories for the wine that night. Like that was her eating disorder, right? I'm like, oh, when I was a kid, like that, those are the conversations I had with my mom, but now that I know what it is to be healthy in my femininity, and I can share the book and teach other women what it is to be healthy in their femininity, it also gives men a chance. But okay, well, what is healthy masculinity? And so I hope to, continue to have opportunities to talk about what is healthy femininity, and because it destroyed my relationships. I didn't know how to be healthy in my feminine lane, so I attracted men who didn't know how to be healthy in their masculine lane. And I also I had a wound that I'm replaceable, that I only found with the fifth hero. And so if I, but then, so that's one reason I attracted in so many players into my life, is they were showing me that wound. And so many women, like, they just think, well, where are all the good men? Okay, well, girlfriend, the reason you're not seeing the good man is because you're not a good woman. If you're a good, what we call a good, healthy woman, healthy in her femininity, then you would be attracting lots of healthy masculine men. But I would say, a lot of women have a hard time taking accountability for their end of it. And there's a lot of societal conditioning and stuff. But, I think we're in progress on helping people see reality.
Absolutely. Yes, okay. Yeah, I not. Okay. And then I want to shift gears now. I want to talk about this intersection that you have. You spoke briefly about how you might act, half of this is about engineering, half of it about healing. And this a weird intersection, but it really works for you, right? And fascinated on how this, physics is playing around these scientific languages, and how both of them, even though it's like very uncanny to be existing together, it's if it is working, then there must be some reason behind it, right? You are balancing your spiritual gifts, right? Like shamanic insight with scientific structure in your life, in your coaching, even parts of your book. Then how is this really working out together? Curious.
Okay, so I'm going to quote Carl Jung. Wholeness is not created by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by the integration of the contraries: science, left brain, logic; spirituality, emotion, creativity. And so that's the masculine and the feminine. And I think that's what we've been waiting for. So in 2012, we hit a new timeline. We saw the movie come out. We always knew, okay, do you remember that in 2012, like a movie came out and it was like the time cycle? So it was the time cycle. What it was is that now was the time for everyone to heal themselves. And you see, right after 2012, there was a huge uptick in medicine journeys like psilocybin, ayahuasca, Sam prayed, like all of that coming out, therapies all over YouTube, self-help, because now is the time to heal ourselves. And now is a time that we understand that the science and the spirituality are saying the same exact thing. So for some people say, well, I got the spirituality, so I don't care about the science. And so say, I got the science, so I don't care about the spirituality. Okay, hang on. Hang on. We're all on the same page. Let's just, let's analyze this for a second. right? And so the physicists have proven that we all have energy bodies and we all communicate through our heart space. Well, shamans have always been saying that we all have souls and we communicate through our heart. And so our heart, the nervous system around our heart is way more complex and sends way more signals from the heart to the brain than the other way around. And the soul communicates like heart and soul, right? Soul communicates to the heart, to the nervous system. So the soul is actually in charge and not the brain, right? But lack of understanding, men have power and force, so men took over. But now is the time for, women came out of the house, right? And then we're like, oh, and we worked. You want me to work and have kids and okay, so everybody's mentally ill now. Okay, we don't want that. But what do we want, right? We want healthy femininity, and that's when, what I'm here, what my purpose is to help women see what this healthy femininity is. But we needed both sides of the aisle to like sit down at the table and say, we're saying the same thing. And now we have all this proof that we're saying the same thing. Like the electromagnetic field around the heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain. And you hear the wisdom that you want to change the world, you have to change yourself. Well, that's how you change other people, is the more you open your heart and the more wisdom you download, the more influential you are over the other souls, whether they like it, whether you're talking or not. So the reason I was able to, on the same day that Fresh and Fit, the red hot center of Red Pill on YouTube, right, was demonetized in 2023. That morning, I downloaded Monogamy is the Path to Enlightenment. And because I'm more in alignment with the laws of the universe, then polygamy was moved out of alignment. And granted, we had a lot of before, but all hedonistic cultures have always failed. Why? Because if half the men aren't getting laid, then things got to change. And that's what Red Pill's basically doing. They take all the women to the top, which is what we see right now, and a lot of men aren't getting laid and aren't having families. Okay, well that's social revolution right there. Population collapse. So I would say that like we have neuroscientists like Dr. Joe Dispenza, saying this is exact same things. So we have and then like neuroscience proving how female bodies work and how masculine bodies work. There's just so much science behind it now that I think it's time for us to sit down and have a larger conversation about how is reality really created? What is healthy femininity? What is healthy masculinity? What balances our hormones? Because so many people say, well, Kerry, you just need to get with the times. I'm like, well, hormones don't get with the times, girlfriend. If I'm acting like a man, then I build too much testosterone. I can't have kids and I'm unhealthy in, multiple ways on multiple medications. What if I'm healthy in my femininity? Well, no, I can't go be the CEO because that doesn't build healthy femininity. But I'm a great mother and my kids are healthy and my ex-husband's mentally healthy and my friends are all mentally healthy. So, you want to be a man and be unhealthy, or you want to be a woman and be healthy? It's like, we can't just do whatever the fuck we want, which I think is what women want.
I think your book has a healthy mix of all of these things. Let's talk about your book, okay? The My Inner Heroine is the title. Am I correct? Okay. Uh, you you have written the book through the wound, even though some wounds were healed. Maybe a few were in the progression of getting to that completely healing or healed stage, but you still took out your pen, you wrote the book, and you completed that. This journey of writing a book, especially a book of titles as such, and which deeply, talks about how you felt as a child or how you has been feeling throughout your life, is something that is very taxing and is something that not many people try to do for themselves, because they are being vulnerable. They are trying, they're saying their own story through a piece of article that will stay for eternity, that can be read by multiple people. So even though it's something that is very courageous, the the soul belief that it takes a lot out of our energy is something that not many people try to go for, right? So I want to know that what this book really holds, who is it for, what can it do to a people who is trying to, search for answers, or maybe who is the ideal reader for this book? And lastly, which chapter in the book was most emotionally taxing for you?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'd say, who's this book for? This book, yes, I'm a woman. So of course it's for women. It's for any woman who has had a traumatic childhood, who is kind of at her wit's end about how to find self-belief, how to self-reflect, how to get out of the valley of darkness that she's in. If you're drawn to the book, you're drawn to healing. Is for men. I think the important point in the men is that while a lot of people are triggered by Andrew Tate and say that they hate Andrew Tate and that he's the problem, all these other men in my book have similar wounds, are similar to Andrew Tate. We have the fire department, we have FBI, and we all got to open our eyes that Andrew Tate is not just, he's an example of the challenge, of the problem. He's not the problem, so to speak. So so if Andrew Tate triggers you and you're a woman, then probably you have a fear of men wound and you have a fear of being sexually assaulted. So my book will teach you how to address those wounds because that is what I did. So, okay. So that I would say is, who's the book for? Most challenging chapter. Okay. My original hero, Jared. So I first wrote my first edition last year in the summer, and then I published it, and it ended after the fire captain. I didn't know that I was about to reach out to my guy from my childhood, and that I would, like, go in and out of enlightenment almost, like, 10 times in November and December. I mean, it was gnarly, like, his avoided attachment to self was, like, 10 times that Jared's was than Jim, the fire captain. I was like, "Oh, I see," 'cause, like, I remember I put in the book, like, before I even reached out to Jared, I was like, "God, it felt like this was like a shamanic final exam," and, I was like, "Okay." But now I'm ready, but then that was ready for the most challenging one, which, on the day that I was guided to reach out to him, I put a few posts on Instagram as feminine calling in her masculine, and like he was ASB president, super good looking, over 6 feet tall, like varsity letterman, like league champion in wrestling, went to military academy for college, MBA, like FBI, super successful, current career, international company, super successful. But I had no idea he was all of that. Like I didn't remember. But then I'm like, okay. So it always felt like I was working in lockstep with someone on Andrew Tate. I came into Justice Life 2 months before Andrew's takedown started. And Jared got his current job 1 month before I reached out to Justin. Was like, and then like he was in Hawaii for his MBA at the same time I was in China and South Korea. And then we came back same time, like, then 2019, when I attempted suicide, he left the FBI and his father passed away, like, so but this is again, all of our souls are communicating. All of our souls have a plan to bring out our best selves. Like, when I actually like in high school, I wouldn't even let the ASB president talk to me of a high school of like 2,000 kids, you know? I'm like, I don't care. Like, you don't even talk to me. Like, no. And here we are, like 40 years later, and now I'm finally ready to talk about it, But that's the soul. We have a soul contract for all this to happen, for us to see ourselves and learn our lessons and, bring this all to light. And yeah.
Awesome. I mean, it's such an interesting journey that you have. I mean, it's a journey of courage, of resilience, of inspiration, and very motivating at the same time. I'd love to keep on with the conversation, but sadly, we are short on time. We have to wrap this episode. But before we do that, we had this segment that we have it. Every one of our guests is a rapid fire segment.
Okay.
I'll ask you 5 questions, but the catch is you have to be fast. You can't take time to think, and you have to be brief with the answers. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The first one: how do you define legacy now?
Legacy is I work as hard to be the best version of myself every day, and that's my legacy.
Okay. What's your relationship with purpose in this phase of life?
Purpose is I'm on my matriarch's journey. So as a maiden, that was self-love. As a mother is family love. As a matriarch is community love. So I'm focused on sharing my wisdom with the community.
Hey, the third one. What's one truth you want women in pain, and the men who love them to understand?
Oh, the universe is a mirror. Okay, so what you see outside of yourself, if you see selfishness, then ask yourself, how am I being selfish? If you're seeing hatred, ask yourself how you're being hateful. If you're seeing racism, ask yourself how you're being racist. And so I would say that kind of self-reflection is women need. The universe is a mirror. Our emotions are about ourselves. When you make ad hominem attacks like shameful, you're a misogynist, you're a racist, those people are actually talking about themselves.
Interesting. Number 4. What did writing My Inner Heroine teach you that healing alone did not?
Oh, this taught me to I can only speak for myself. The universe is a mirror. These men were my mirrors. I don't speak for them. They are not wrong. They showed up in my life and gave me energy. So I call them my heroes because they helped me so much.
Awesome. And the last one, and this one's deep. How do you find peace now?
In my recliner, resting on edibles.
Awesome. That wraps up this segment of Rapid Fire. Thank you so much, Kerry, for appearing on this podcast. I'm really grateful. And thank you so much for, mustering up courage for sharing your story out to the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this episode made you feel inspired and encouraged you to push through boundaries. Make sure you check out Kerry's book, My Inner Heroine, and feel even more empowered. I'll give links to that down the description or show notes for you to go and check it out. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, take care.